Some of us spend our time playing new releases, or whatever games are in the charts. I, on the other hand, prefer the finer things in life. A great game is like fine wine and gets better with age. But like a fine wine, sometimes these commodities hold significant value. You may not be able to afford thousands of classic games, but I certainly can. So I am here to educate you and share with you my experiences with some of the best games of all time. The Nintendo Entertainment System is a nostalgic powerhouse. Whether you started playing games before, during, or after the era of the little grey box, the NES is iconic. Nintendo's first entertainment system provided joy, laughs, frustration, and straight up anger for millions of kids and adults alike. Even now, long-time players will bring the NES out, wade through the inevitable flashing screens, and cartridges that won't start until they're blown in, and play their favourites for old time's sake. Because of this, it should not be a surprise that Nintendo's 8-bit library is filled with so many collector's pieces. Amongst these collector's pieces is Panic Restaurant. Panic Restaurant is an obscure platformer released by Taito. Back in 1972, the Taito Corporation introduced to the world their first video arcade game. By 1973, many of its early arcade games saw release in America by Midway, a Chicago area-based arcade manufacturer with strong ties to Taito. In 1978, a designer at Taito created Space Invaders, which became the company's most popular title ever and one of the most memorable games in arcade history, which many claim responsible for beginning the golden age of arcade video games. However, swiftly moving forward in time, to the early 90s, Taito were regularly pumping out quality games for the NES. Even when the Super Nintendo became the biggest thing, Taito continued to crank out games for the NES. However, most of these Taito games from around the time were released in very small quantities. Games such as Panic Restaurant and Little Samson were amongst the last games on the NES. Because of this, Panic Restaurant has become increasingly difficult to find over the years, and it is especially hard to find complete. This is particularly the case in North America. Lucky for us, however, in Europe, this is one of the few games that is significantly cheaper than its North American counterpart. Here I have a boxed PAL-B version of Panic Restaurant. Its box art differs from that of the US and Japanese version of the game. However, in my opinion, I feel this box art probably best depicts the actual art style of the game. The plot of the game is set in a restaurant. One day, a chef from a rival restaurant named O'Dove comes along and causes trouble and mass hysteria amongst the food in the restaurant. This causes all the delicacies to panic and form a coalition to rebel and attack the establishment. This establishment is run by a chef named Cookie. Cookie must navigate through his own restaurant and battle the evil food monsters with his kitchen utensil weapons across 6 levels before taking on O'Dove in the final battle. Because you're a chef, your weapons are the tools of the trade, such as spoons, frying pans, and forks. An easier way to think of the plot is imagine an evil chef like Gordon Ramsay invading a pure-hearted chef's restaurant, such as Jamie Oliver, who is, in my opinion, has become the John Cena of the cooking world. John Cena! With such a bizarre concept for a game, you'd expect Panic Restaurant to fit into one of 2 categories. You'd expect it to either be really, really bad, or a hidden gem amongst the true greats. So in the rest of this video, we will take a closer look and see whether Panic Restaurant is worth a play. Panic Restaurant is a platformer spread over 6 levels. Each is based on a certain type of food, such as breakfast, dessert, and everything in between. You go through these levels in the same order you would get served these courses in a restaurant. As expected, the levels start quite easy and get more difficult as the game progresses. The stages are a decent length, perhaps comparable to the levels in DuckTales. Each level is scattered with ridiculous edible enemies, such as headless feathered chickens and massive skating ice cream cones, which one can only assume are trying to give you diabetes. On the point of diabetes, always remember to not spend too much time playing video games. You should be exercising every day and avoiding processed foods. Ideally, you should just stick to meat and vegetables, like a human being is supposed to. Personally, I find celery is a great gaming snack. However, I know many of you are probably weak-minded and eat crisps, chocolate, and drink alcohol. So next time you snack, think. you would probably die of a heart attack or another obesity related problem. Anyway, now I have assisted you in saving your life, let's get back to the review. The level design is quite cool. It is what you would expect really from a cartoony NES platformer. Every level, as you would predict, is kitchen themed. For example, the fish level is essentially a giant deep freezer, full of precarious leaps and slippery ledges. Or the soup stage, which includes giant boiling pots the size of small lakes. Enemies can be annoying at times, particularly the bouncing apples that suddenly explode, or the even more annoying machine gun like chips. Every style enemy and boss in the game stands out. Although there are only 6 levels, the quality of these levels make this game a cut above many longer games on the system. The graphics and visual presentation of the game are fun and colourful. Cookie the chef fits into the overall design well, and he is well animated and in the most part looks happy to be there. Except of course when he is dying, that is, and appears to convulse on the floor like he is having some sort of epileptic seizure. To summarise, Panic Restaurant, although a great game, is extremely short. So I can see the expensive price tag turning a lot of gamers away. However, its pick up and play nature could actually be advantageous to most retro gamers, particularly those with more money than time, which is often the case with collectors. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button and leave comments and opinions in the comment boxes below. If you like what I am doing, please follow me on Twitter at TopHatGamingMan. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, I advise you go back and watch my previous review on the godly expensive game Earthbound. So now I'm going to leave you with a piece of music covering the bus song from Earthbound by my friend Ryan Harris over at Enigma Music. Remember, culture yourself and play the finer games in history. Cheerio!